You know those moments in life when everything starts going wrong and then keeps getting worse? Like when you spill coffee on yourself, miss the bus, get fired, and then it rains, except the rain is acid and the bus that splashed you was driven by your ex? Yeah, that's basically the life story of one woman I'm about to tell you about. Only her story ends with a noose around her neck and the government calling her a traitor. And believe it or not, it all started with a car ride after a rainstorm.
And I'm the student.
Strap in, because this one is dark, tragic, intense, and weirdly addictive. Our story opens at the end. A young woman, let's call her Flora, is standing on death row, convicted of treason. The executioner asks if she has any final words before she's hanged. And instead of saying something short and dramatic, she basically says, "Buckle up, I've got a whole life story to unload." And so begins her tale. So we rewind back to when Flora was just 18, a student, innocent, impressionable, and waiting to sit her final exams. On her way home after a downpour, she meets a stranger, Tom. Now, Tom is one of those smooth operators. You know the type, smiles too much, always has a car ready, and probably has 5 different girls saved under the name Pizza Delivery in his phone. Anyway, Tom offers Flora a ride, and Flora, eager for adventure and wanting to prove she's grown like the other girls, accepts. Big mistake. Huge mistake. That evening, Tom lures her with drinks, and before she knows it, Flora wakes up the next morning in a hotel bed, guilt gnawing at her. She says she's now a woman, but not in the way she dreamed. This, unfortunately, is just the beginning of her long, painful entanglement with Tom.
Oh no.
Months pass, and Flora meets Kit, Tom's equally shady sidekick. Together, these two crooks shower her with money. Suddenly, Flora has the lifestyle. Fancy clothes, luxuries, a taste of the fast lane. Her sister notices but doesn't say much. And then Mike, her sister's man, comes knocking. And what does Mike do when left alone with Flora? He takes advantage of her too. At this point, if you're keeping score, it feels like every man around Flora has a single mission: to exploit her. Anyway, Mike drags her to a university party, and here, Flora meets Steve, our one sliver of hope in this story. Steve is protective, warm, and unlike the others, he actually seems to care. Flora is intrigued. She thinks about him after the party, even though she still dances dangerously close to Tom and Kit's world. Now, Flora tries her luck with jobs. She visits offices, meets powerful men, but honestly, nothing good comes out of it. Tom and Kit, meanwhile, have bigger plans. They promise her a job with a wealthy Mzungu. Sounds too good to be true, right? Because, well, it is. Along the way, she's harassed and raped in the back of a car before being dumped like a parcel at the old white man's compound. Her disgust and trauma only deepen. But instead of walking away from Tom and Kit forever, Flora is still stuck in their orbit. It's painful to watch.
Why are you the way that you are?
She gets tricked again by Lupoi, another powerful man she met at the party who sleeps with her under the promise of work. Flora's bitterness grows. She begins to hate men altogether. And yet, in all this, Steve keeps reappearing. He gets her a job with Dr. Ruhu, a kind and respectable professor. For once, it feels like Flora's life might just turn around. She even starts realizing that Tom no longer has the same power over her.
I began to realize that I no longer needed him.
She says, "Progress, right? Well, not so fast." One Saturday, Steve takes Flora on a trip to the national park. Sounds romantic, right? They laugh, they eat, they finally feel normal. Except when they laugh at the hotel, the white guests get offended. The manager storms over like, "How dare you laugh in front of these Europeans?" Steve calmly claps back.
This is our country. We can laugh or cry in it. If the Europeans don't like it, they can leave.
Boom, Steve won, racism 0. But soon, reality hits again. Flora finds herself pregnant, and she's not sure if it's Steve's or Tom's. Ouch. She chooses abortion, a harrowing ordeal, but Steve supports her throughout. For a brief moment, Flora's life stabilizes. She's with Steve, she has some direction, and she even dreams of a better future. But as you can guess, her past hasn't finished with her yet. Fast forward 5 years. Flora is now married to Steve, studying at university, and even has a son, Peter. Life seems perfect, except shadows from her past creep back in. She reconnects with Jennifer, her old friend, who tragically takes her own life by jumping out of a building, leaving Flora devastated. Then Composita, a police officer, invites Flora to his office with a message. Tom is back, and this time, he's out for vengeance. He tells her bluntly, "Become my mistress, or I'll kill Steve." And just like that, Flora is thrown back into Tom's snare.
Why did this have to happen?
Things spiral quickly. At a roadblock, Flora witnesses horrifying abuse by police against ordinary women. At home, political discussions intensify. Steve is being pushed to become president, though he's reluctant. Meanwhile, Flora keeps receiving threats from Tom. She even gets kidnapped, raped again, and photographed in compromising positions to ruin her marriage. The country itself is collapsing, drought, political executions, false charges of treason. Mr. Kungu, one of Steve's allies, is assassinated. Steve is soon arrested. And in Flora's darkest moment, Tom storms into her home yet again, rapes her, and leaves her broken. She tries to hang herself but survives, only to end up in a prison cell. In the final act, she's convicted of treason alongside her husband and others, accused of conspiring to overthrow the government. And that's where the story began, with Flora standing before the executioner, telling us her entire tragic tale. So, the book I've been talking about is Shadows of Time, published way back in 1999. It's a haunting, gut-wrenching, and deeply unsettling Ugandan novel that follows Flora Wangu's turbulent journey through betrayal, abuse, and political chaos. And, well, yes, her entire story is actually her last word before execution. This novel is not an easy read, let me tell you. It's heavy, it's brutal, and honestly, it will leave you feeling emotionally drained. But it's also powerful, because Flora is not just one woman. She's a symbol of so many young women caught in a society plagued by corruption, patriarchy, and violence. Flora's character arc is both heartbreaking and, really frustrating. She begins as an impressionable girl, constantly manipulated, constantly abused, and never quite able to break free. Even when she tries, through education, through Steve, through marriage, her past just keeps clawing her back. Her lack of agency is painful, but that's exactly the point. She really embodies the helplessness of individuals under oppressive systems. The novel is also a sharp commentary on gender dynamics. Men here, Tom, Kit, Lupoi, even Mike are predators. They use power, money, and social status to exploit women. Flora's line,
"I am a woman, a plaything for men,"
captures the despair perfectly. Education, instead of empowering her, alienates her further. She doesn't belong in the village anymore, but neither is she accepted in the urban elite world. And then there's the political layer. Corruption, illegal arrests, roadblocks, arbitrary executions. Uganda's turbulent history bleeds through every page. Professor Ruhu's line,
"We are mere shadows of time,"
sums it up. Even the brightest, most promising citizens feel like their lives mean nothing in the chaos. Flora's death, while tragic, is almost redemptive. She dies not just as a victim, but as someone who dared to dream of change, someone who urged her husband to fight for a better government. In that sense, she becomes a martyr. Now, about the author, this book came out in 1999, during a period when Ugandan writers were grappling with how to portray the political unrest and social upheaval of the country. And the author does not shy away from the hard truths. They confront corruption, patriarchy, and despair head-on, leaving us with a haunting story that feels both personal and universal. Shadows of Time is not for the faint-hearted. It's filled with pain, abuse, and hopelessness. But it's also a story that forces you to reflect on power, on gender, on politics, and on the cost of silence. Flora's life may have ended tragically, but her story lingers, echoing long after you close the book. So if you're ready for a story that will shatter you, move you, and make you think deeply about the shadows we carry through history, this is the one. Just don't expect a happy ending. Thanks for watching. If you've read this book, let me know your thoughts down below. And if you haven't, well, consider yourself warned. See you in the next one. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.